Well, welcome. I'm Dr. Craig Dingman from Elevate Chiropractic. Today, we're going to go through your Move by Design webinar. So we're going to talk a lot about requirements for health in our office. As a human, you have certain requirements you are required to fulfill in order for your body to express health. And one of the most important ones is movement. So you've recently been introduced to the concept of neurostructural correction, which means your spine is either not aligned properly or mechanically not working right, and it's impacting your nervous system. And we talked about a number of different things you're going to need to do and participate in order to recover and correct your spine. One of them being to attend your appointments in office, and another is to do a variety of things at home to support the in-office spinal correction that you're undergoing. And movement is a critical component of that, not just specifically the exercises I've given you to maybe get your spine moving or alleviate your pain in the short term, but to develop movement patterns and exercise activity patterns that can last a lifetime in order for you to be truly healthy. So humans are motion machines. People absolutely must move in a variety of different ways in order to have health. And it's virtually impossible to be truly healthy without a high level of activity. And what I've seen in the research that I've done, and that's coming out more, the research that I've read and the research I'm reading that's coming out more and more frequently, is that there is virtually no process or health condition or disease state that humans can undergo that is not improved significantly, statistically significantly, by exercise. It really seems like a panacea, but exercise and proper movement helps everything. So here's the problem. And often I'm asking patients questions, and the question I asked you on your intake is rate your health on a scale of 0 to 100. So 0 being no health or death, and 100 being health in your wildest dreams. Health so much you never even think of it. You just take it for granted. You get a good solid 8 hours of sleep at night without waking up. You have all the energy you ever need to do everything, whether it's first thing in the morning or later in the evening. You've got all the energy. Your digestion's fine. You never have body pains, aches, headaches. All your systems are working at a finely tuned rate that would be 100%. And I ask you to rate your scale. And I don't think I've got a single 100% yet from anyone. And the answers range from, close to 0 to, I would say 80 to 85 is about the highest I will ever get. So, but really, as a society, how are we doing with respect to our health? All the major lifestyle diseases, are they going down? Or are they going up? If you look at heart disease rates are going up basically every single year. Cancer rates are always on the rise. Diabetes is almost exponentially on the rise. It's a very, very steep curve. Depression, anxiety, obesity, childhood obesity, all these lifestyle illnesses are on the rise every single year. And it's not for that lack of knowledge, right? Because we all either have, an internet connection and we know about Google, or we've got nutrition or wellness magazines or something on our shelves. We know the things that we should eat. We know we should exercise. We know we should manage our stress and get more sleep, but most of us don't do it. So that's what tonight is about with respect to movement patterns. And movement is just one of the pieces of a puzzle. So you can see on the screen, there's 4 pieces of a puzzle. One of them would be movement. One of them would be nutrition. One of them would be your mindset or mental state. And the other we call power, or that's your chiropractic component. That's your brain-body connection. So tonight we're going to focus on Move by Design. You're going to learn the proper types of movement and why to do them. So here's a quote that I like. I think there's a lot in here. It may seem very wordy, but it makes a lot of sense. So there is overwhelming evidence that illness and disease are from living incongruently with our genetic requirements for life. So like I said originally, humans have genetic requirements in order to express health. And if we're not meeting those requirements, we won't be healthy. And the degree to which we are meeting those requirements is the degree to which we'll enjoy health. It's as simple as that. And we were designed to be truly extraordinary. And, depending on your belief system, we sort of evolved through these different postures. And I like this graphic because in the end, there's the guy sitting at the computer hunched over, and like, what went wrong? You can imagine in the middle there, those guys with the knife and the spears and the farm implements, how much activity humans used to get compared to what we've gotten in the last generation. The last 30 to 50 years, we've basically gone from fields to desk chairs, and our activity rates are a fraction of what they used to be, and we're paying the price for it. So I love this word epigenetics. Epigenetics is a recent study. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not, but it basically is a study of how your environment affects your genetic expression. So here's a shocker, and here's something that might startle you, but it really is a reality check, is that, most people that I talk to when they come in as patients and I'm interviewing them, I'll ask them about their health history. Oh, my mom had arthritis, so I'm going to have arthritis. My father, my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, basically everyone on my mom's side all had cancer, so it looks like I'm going to get cancer. Or they all had heart disease, looks like I'm going to get heart disease. Or people who have high blood pressure say, oh, it's just, my doctor told me it's familial hypertension. There's nothing I can do about it. Well, here's a news flash. All the new science that we have, the best science that's becoming available to us, tells us that our current state of health is determined by our genetics to the tune of 2 or 3% max. I'll repeat that. Your health is only influenced and determined by your genetics to 2 or 3%. So that's 97+% of whatever state of health you have right now is related to your choices and not your genes. And I'll say this, you may inherit a genetic predisposition to something, but unless your lifestyle supports that, meaning if you are predisposed to heart disease, for example, you will only get and express heart disease if you have poor lifestyle choices. Same with cancer, same with diabetes, any of those things. There are some rare exceptions, that's in the 2 to 3%. So that may be a bit of a slap in the face or an eye-opener for some of us, but you need to own the fact that your lifestyle choices have led you to whatever current state of health you're experiencing. But here's the cool thing about epigenetics is that your choices got you to where you're at, and if you don't like it, well, your choices can change where you're at. Because if you make better choices, your body is incredibly adaptable, and it will begin to change and express more health based on better choices. And this will happen anytime in your life. And in fact, your current state of health is just a sum. It's a fluctuating sum that varies with all the good health choices and all the bad health choices you make moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day, month after month. And you can change that sum in a very short period of time with change in lifestyle choices. So here are some things, right, some things are out of our control, like there's a car accident. Well, car accident can create stress in our bodies that really, it's through no fault of our own. But these other things, the environment we live in, well, we can't really control that either. Sitting at a desk, how we sit at a desk, we have to work, but we can do things to unwind that posture. Managing our finances, managing our stress, getting enough sleep. All these things are stressors that can impact how our body works. And we're not going to be able to run away from most of these and live on a mountaintop somewhere in Tibet. So we have to have strategies so that we can adapt and overcome and manage these things. Tonight, we're going to give you movement strategies to overcome some of the physical stressors that we have to do with our sedentary lifestyle and the way we sit in our cars, at our computers, with our smartphones, our tablets. So here's an interesting study, a few studies actually, on twins. So these two mice are genetically identical, right? So here, this is again debunking the myth of, well, my family all have this certain disease, I'm going to get it too, there's nothing I can do. So these are two genetically absolutely identical mice. They're twins. Their genetic code is identical in every single way. And yet one of them is of normal weight and one of them is grossly obese. So do you think that they probably have a different lifestyle, right? They probably were fed differently, were allowed to be active in different ways. And the genetic expression of the one is a result of its environment. So it ate too much, worked out too little, it got grossly obese, and the other one didn't. These two ladies they are identical twins. And they look extremely different. And once again, their genetic code is absolutely different. How come they look so different? It's lifestyle choices. Same with these guys. There's a couple of brothers who are identical twins. You can see the slim guy on the left and the muscular guy on the right. Do you think that probably their movement patterns, their exercise levels, involved different things? Perhaps the guy on the left chose to just run long distances, and the guy on the right chose to go to the gym and lift a lot of weights. And because they put their cells in a different environment, there was a different genetic expression of their genetic code. And here's the thing is, and I think this is a really important statement, is what I've come to realize over almost 20 years of being in practice, is that every human being was designed to be extraordinary. And if we don't feel like we are, it's usually because our choices have not supported our genetic requirements for health. So look at this flower that's wilting here. This is an interesting analogy, because if I showed you a flower like this and it's all wilting, and I said to you, okay, here's a wilting flower. What does this flower need? What's wrong with the flower? Well, you'd say, well, that flower needs to be watered. It needs to be put in some sunlight, and it might need some nutrients in its soil. And if you do those things, that flower will probably become healthy, because we understand that those are genetic requirements for a healthy flower. Another great example is if you have a pet, you have a dog, and your dog is throwing up. What's the first question that pops in your mind? It's, what did the dog eat, right? But if you have a sick child and your child's throwing up, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Well, it's not, what did my child eat? It's usually, well, what's wrong with the child? Or I got to give my child something. Maybe they need Gravol or something like that, or Tylenol. We're always thinking about giving some outside-in approach. Well, we don't look at the wilting flower or the vomiting dog and say, oh, we better give this like doggy Tylenol, or give the flower some little crushed up flower Tylenol. We understand that something from the environment is affecting the health of that plant. Well, people are like that too. So I love this picture because, I mean, there are not many seniors who are as old as this guy. This guy must be in his 70s, and he's got a body that most 20-year-olds would kill for, right? Do you think that he spent some time in his life probably doing the right things for his physical frame? And here's the thing, is that, you know, there's this belief that as we age, we lose all our muscle, we gain belly fat, and we become weak and break down. It does not have to be that way. And your body will respond and adapt and do things like produce more muscle for you and produce less belly fat if you just do the right types of activity and have the right nutrition. So one thing that's really important to understand is that there are a few key ingredients in getting extraordinary results when it comes to your health. So I love this formula here. It says that correct philosophy and congruent action combined with time will produce extraordinary results. So correct philosophy, that's just, we're kind of talking about that already, is what's your opinion on health, right? And we're talking about the epigenetics. Like, I'm hoping that I'm changing your opinion from, oh, you know what, this is in my family, so there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to get this arthritis, heart disease, blood pressure problem, whatever it is, because it's in my family. I hope I'm shifting that belief system within you to the idea that you have a high degree of control over your health through your daily habits and lifestyle and actions. And then congruent action, we all know the action that we should take, or at least we can easily learn, and we're teaching you about that tonight. But the one place where I find patients really fall down, and it has to do with this really fast-paced culture we're in, is that, you know, we tend to want things instantly and overnight. We want results immediately, right? Fast food, fast internet, high-speed everything. But in your body, you've got to hold on to that congruent action consistently over time in order to see results. And I really encourage you to stick out this process of neurostructural restoration, because it does take some time, right? If you take your children to the orthodontist and they put braces on, how long are those braces on for? It's not 2 to 3 weeks or even a month, right? Your child's going to have braces on for 1 to 2, or in my son's case, it was like 3.5 years to change the bony structure of the teeth. Well, if we need to change the bony structure of your spine to allow your nerve system to work properly, that may take some time too. It's going to be months to years, depending on the degree of degeneration and what stage that you're in. So what do our genes expect? It's a great question. They expect us to eat the right foods, move in the right ways, manage our stress and control the way that we think, and have a properly functioning brain, spinal cord, and spinal structure. These are the 4 basic building blocks of health. So these 3 gentlemen here are from the Maasai tribe in Africa. And these are not like 3 guys who spend a lot of time in the Maasai warrior village gym. The idea of exercising for these guys would seem absurd. These are just 3 average guys, and they are ripped, and they eat an extremely high protein and fat diet, very few carbohydrates. And do you think that their activity and exercise patterns probably support lean body mass with lots of muscle? For sure, just through their activities, right? Now, in our culture in North America, fortunately, we don't have to hunt down our prey and build and use our muscles all day, every day. We've made a fairly easy lifestyle, but our bodies still require those types of movements because that's the way we've been for thousands and thousands of years. That's what our genes expect. So we've got to mimic as many of these different movement patterns as we possibly can, probably in the gym or at CrossFit or yoga or these various places. So I think that's important to understand, right? If you look at our very distant ancestors, do you think this guy ever said, hey, like after I fight this bear, I'm just going to go to the gym and pump some iron? Well, likely not. His idea of a workout was just getting through a day and surviving. And he would have to go through all these different movement patterns to survive. But the conventional wisdom has really, really strayed from what our genes require, right? So I drove past one of these big mega gyms the other day, and they had banks upon banks of these cardio machines, specifically treadmills, in the windows. Like there were dozens and dozens of them. And I thought, I appreciate that people are on the treadmill and they're burning calories, but I can tell you the research now is not supporting long, moderate paced treadmill workouts. It simply is an ineffective way to control your weight and express health. There are lots of way, way better ways to exercise in much shorter periods of time that are going to serve you way better physically. You get lots more benefits from them. So here are some of the downsides that we're seeing from chronic cardio. Now, this is a tough one. This is a tough pill for me to swallow because for years and years, I was a triathlete and then a marathon runner. And boy, I could run fast for long distances. My favorite workout of my week was I'd leave the house at about 4:30 or 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning so I could get in a 3.5-hour run before church. I'd go way out into the woods all on my own. I'd be out for hours, 35, 40 kilometers. I would love it. But now we're seeing in the research, chronic cardio promotes systemic inflammation, poor insulin control, oxidative damage, joint pain, fatigue, cortisol, muscle tissue destruction, especially in the heart. And we actually shift our metabolism to store more fat. And if you look at this picture, I mean, there's a marathoner on the left and a sprinter on the right. Which one of those physiques would you rather have? Which one looks healthier? Who looks more vibrant, right? I think this chronic cardio, although if you're sports specific and your dream is to run the marathon, you may have to look like this for a period of time, but I'm saying do it if you have the thrill of competition, but it's not a healthy lifestyle choice. And like I said, I was a marathoner. I've come to realize that. So here are two key questions for you. What do our bodies expect in terms of movement and metabolic demands? And what are the best strategies to fulfill those requirements? Well, I'm going to give you those tonight in this presentation. So we need to, first of all, be mobile. So this is to do with moving our joints through a range of motion and having flexibility. It's listed there first because I think of all the things we do for our health, this has got to be the number one. This is the priority job number one, is to be mobile. And especially if you're under the process of neurostructural restoration, you've just started care and we're changing how your spine works, focusing on your mobility as the foundational change that you make in the beginning is critical. Nothing else in your body is going to work nearly as well as being mobile. We'll give you some strategies for doing that tonight. And then every individual, every adult needs to lift heavy. I'm not talking about necessarily, going to the gym and lifting 400 pounds, but we need to be lifting heavy things several times per week. Doesn't matter what age you are. Even senior citizens have got to be lifting heavy to maintain their muscle mass and keep health. And we'll explain why later. We've got a couple times a week, you've got to move fast. So everyone's heard of HIIT training or burst training or surge training. These are like interval training where you work at a very high intensity for a short period of time, rest for a short period of time, and repeat. Some of these workouts are 5, 6, 8 minutes long, and that's it, but they're of high intensity. And the intensity is key because it elicits a specific physiological response that we need. And then your move slow is just your general sort of activity, like building a snowman with the kids, playing in the pool, shoveling your driveway, going for walks through the woods, playing hide and go seek with the kids, walking the dog. All these things are move slow, and we should have quite a few hours of move slow every week. And moving slow as you hit the remote for Netflix does not count, by the way. Moving the thumb only does not count for move slow. So look at how comfortable these little guys look in their squat. So a squat is a very natural human posture. We were all designed to squat from the cradle to the grave. And until very recently, people would have to squat at least twice a day to have their constitutional. And, with the advent of Western toilets where we sit, nobody really squats anymore. So we've lost our ability to squat. But most cultures in the world that have squatting as part of their, digestive routine can still squat even into a ripe old age. These guys look so comfortable there, they could hang out there all day. But question for you, how many of you that are listening to this could squat like one of these guys and still be smiling and not grimacing or falling over? And you wouldn't get half as close as they are to the ground. Well, squatting is one of the key fundamental movements for mobility. So we're going to teach you how to squat properly. Look at these guys. I mean, you get the idea. They could just squat like that all day because they've done that their entire life. Tremendously important for hip mobility, which, by the way, if you suffer from recurrent back pain, you probably, I would say almost certainly, have a hip mobility problem, especially if you can't do that squat test where you can get your butt almost to the ground, and especially if you can't do the sit to stand test perfectly. So being mobile is critical. So I've got a couple of video resources for you that I'm going to include as links with this webinar that you've got here. So one is a demonstration of how to do joint-to-joint movement. So this is something that I think should be number one on your exercise program. So if you intend to do nothing else that I say tonight, do the joint-to-joint mobility exercises in this. I've got a 9-minute video. It's on my YouTube channel, on my website. I'm going to post the link in here. You can just click on the link. It's my voice narrating, and my wife, Dr. Shauna, is doing the movements. It's essentially mobilizing repeatedly every single joint in your entire body, from the base of your skull to the tips of your toes and everywhere in between, through their full range of motion. Patients often ask me, hey, Dr. Craig, I walk every day. Does walking count for mobility? Well, if you watch someone walking and you're looking at their hip joint, for example, at what point in the normal gait cycle does a hip joint go through its full range of motion? Well, the answer is never. right? So you're going to put your hip joint through almost a full range of motion when you do a full deep squat, but never when you're walking. So not walking counts as like a move slow, but it doesn't count as mobility work. So I'll include the link. I do this every single morning. So I hit go on my coffee grinder that's going to perk my coffee in the morning. And while it's perking, I take about 3 to 4 minutes and I do my mobility work, and I mobilize every joint in my body, and I feel 10 times better just after that 3 to 4 minutes. And this, I would say, do this every single day. Foam rolling. So I'm not sure if everyone knows what a foam roller is, but imagine a cylinder of foam. It's high compression foam that's about 5 inches in diameter and about 20 inches up to about 3 feet long. And you use it to roll. So you can put it on the floor. You can lay on your back on it and roll up and down your thoracic spine. You can sit on it on one glute and then the other glute and roll out tight spots in your glute muscles. You can roll out tight spots in your quadriceps or your hamstrings, essentially using your body weight as pressure as you roll up and down. It's like giving yourself a massage and stripping out tight muscles, allowing them to elongate and function better. I have a foam roller / lacrosse ball video that I'm going to send you as well. So lacrosse ball is great if you lean with your back against a wall and you tuck the lacrosse ball between your back and the wall, and you can, use your legs to move you up and down. You can use that lacrosse ball, to give yourself like a trigger point massage. It's fantastic. You're going to see some examples of that in the foam roller lacrosse ball video that I send you. It's called neurostructural restoration exercises, and you'll get that too. Okay, and number 3, I just put this here so that I can remind you, it's really important to understand whether it's mobilizing your body, stretching, doing yoga, any of these mobility types of things, your adjustments are the same thing. Movement in your body is like the engine for how your brain functions. So as an example, if you're ever tired and sluggish and your energy is low, if you go and lay on the couch and put the TV on, do you get more energy? Like, do you feel rested, or do you feel more lethargic and feel less energetic? Well, you're going to feel more lethargic. You're going to feel less energetic by sitting on the couch. But if you have your big Thanksgiving dinner and you feel sluggish and tired and you put on your shoes and you go out for a nice walk, do you feel more tired or do you feel energized? If you have a walk, you'll always feel energized, because movement is the engine for your brain, for its memory, for its cognitive abilities, for focus. Movement, particularly of the spine and specifically in the upper neck, is it stimulates these proprioceptive nerves that fire and light up all these different areas of your brain to make you alert and think better. And the proprioceptive neurons in your upper cervical spine, your upper neck, are 40 times greater than anywhere else in your spine. And that is one of the major reasons why we're so focused with you on correcting the structure of your neck. Because in this day and age, with people sitting and using tablets, we have this anterior spinal distortion where our head shifts way forward because we're working at computers, and we lose our neck curves, and that we lose proper neurological function in the upper neck. So that's why, especially in the beginning, a lot of your care is focused on regaining that upper spinal curve and proper mechanics and stimulation of the upper neck. That's just a graphic there of something you guys are probably already very much aware of, is that forward head posture that's such a problem in our culture in this day and age. So so here's some easy strategy. We talked about the joint-to-joint mobility exercises with a foam roller. The one we haven't shown you is a safe squat exercise. So essentially you should be squatting every single day. I've even had people in their 70s with double knee replacements who, when I first mentioned squatting, they're like, "Oh, Dr. Craig, I can't squat. I've had my knees replaced." I'm like, no, everyone can squat. Even with bionic knees, you can squat. There's just a progression, and maybe you don't do it like someone else, but every single person should be squatting daily to improve their mobility of their hips, their knees, their ankles, their low back. And a safe squat exercise, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can stand up in front of a chair and squat to the chair at first. You can sit down on the chair and come back up. It's a very, very safe way to do it. If that's too low, you could put like a ball or something on the chair so you're not squatting quite as low. One of my favorite ways is to get an interior door of a house and open it to 45 degrees and face the door end on, feet a little more than shoulder width apart, toes pointing slightly out, and you grab both doorknobs with your hands, and then you just do a deep squat. And you'll be able to get a lot deeper safely this way, especially if you've had knee trouble. This is a really good one, because if you get low and you start feeling, oh, my knee's not going to support this, well, you can pull on the doorknobs and pull yourself up with your upper body. And you can practice this safely so you can progress and get lower and lower. And as your mobility improves and your legs get stronger, you'll be able to get lower and lower. And yet if you get into trouble, you'll be able to pull yourself up using the doorknobs. And I would say you should be doing 8 repetitions of a squat and at least 3 sets of that per day. More is better. So we obviously can't demonstrate for you. We do at the Move by Design workshop, and it's very interactive. Everyone does this together, and we sort of teach people. You're going to have to use the videos and my narration here because you weren't at the workshop. But if you have questions about that, I can demonstrate at one of your appointments. Okay, the next most important, I would say, would be lift heavy. Especially if you're over 35, 40 years old, you've got to be lifting heavy on a regular basis. So let me just make a note here and qualify that by saying that lifting heavy is relative, right? So a 28-year-old athlete who has like a 44-inch chest and muscles everywhere is probably going to need to lift barbells with all sorts of heavy weights on them, and that's going to be their lift heavy. But a 65-year-old individual who has been sedentary for a long time, probably a wall push-up is going to be heavy for them. And a wall push-up, by that I mean if you were just facing a wall with your feet about 2 feet away from the wall and put your arms out and did a push-up against the wall. I'm not even talking about a push-up on the floor where you lift your whole body weight. I'm just talking about pushing off from the wall, or leaning on the back of a couch and doing a push-up on the back of a couch. A squat, for example, might be lifting heavy for some people. It could be a couple cans of pasta sauce that you take and you press them from your shoulders and extend your arms all the way up, way above your head a number of times. But like I said, it's relative. But lifting heavy will tell your body that it must maintain your muscle mass. It will increase testosterone. It will increase growth hormone in your body. And if you're a woman over 35 years old and you're worried about your bone density, the single most important thing you can do to maintain your bone density is strength training, is to lift heavy things regularly. I know most women hate the thought of this, but it's going to outperform any amount of calcium supplementation you could ever do. And I would suggest that even if you're supplementing with calcium, your body's not going to really be using your calcium that you supplement with unless you're lifting heavy and creating those hormonal changes that you need to maintain your bone quality. So there's me. This is one of my average workouts. Nah, I'm kidding. That guy's crazy. But the emphasis here is that heavy is relative, and you've got to find out what is heavy for you. So move fast. This is where HIIT training or burst training or surge training comes in. You should be getting your heart rate up several times per week. I would say maybe 2 to 4, depending on your age and your fitness goals, times per week. You should have a HIIT workout, and it can be as short as 4 or 5 minutes and maybe as long as 10 to 12 minutes. But that would be kind of a long HIIT workout. And the idea is that you get your heart rate up to at least 80% of your maximum. So if you want to know how to figure out your maximum heart rate, the magic formula is 220 minus your age will be your max, and then use your calculator to determine what 80% of that is. So you can do sprints. For some of you, it might be power walking. You're probably going to need a Fitbit or some sort of heart rate monitor. Excuse me, they're inexpensive now, and then you can monitor when your heart rate gets into this zone. Cycling's a great way to do this. Swimming's a great way. I've had people who love to dance. So they put on some really, really pumped up music and they dance to get their heart rate up to this. And you do it at intervals. So you might sprint for 30 seconds, and then you rest for an equal interval, and sprint for 30 seconds, rest for an equal interval. And you did that anywhere from, say, 4 or 5 to 12 minutes, depending on your fitness level and how much you've progressed. And move slow, like I mentioned before, you should have at least 4 hours of move slow type activities every single week. So, like I said, that could be having a snowball fight. That could be shoveling the driveway. That could be building a snowman. That could be going for a walk through the woods briskly, playing with the kids at the park. Those sorts of things all count for move slow. So here is an optimal schedule. You may want to take a screenshot of this or write it down, but on an average week, number one priority would be mobile. Daily is best. Your body's going to be stiff. You probably notice you have more aches and pains in the morning, and then once you start moving around, have your hot shower, it improves a little. Well, if you do your mobility work, the first thing you wake up, that interval where you experience stiffness is going to be shortened. So I would say, wake up, do your morning pee ritual, and then do your mobility right away. Every day. Mobility should be 7 days a week at least. Yoga is great for mobility. Pilates is great for mobility. Tai Chi is great for mobility. There's all kinds of things, and I've given you a link to my daily joint-to-joint mobility routine. Lift heavy 2 to 4 times per week. These can be short as well. You don't have to be spending an hour and a half at the gym pumping iron. This could be 10 minutes to 15 minutes at home with some dumbbells, or just doing push-ups, or soup cans or something like that, depending. But that should be 2 to 4 times a week. Your move fast should be twice a week. So this is your HIIT training or whatever. Yeah, even up to 3 times, depending on your age and what your goals are. And then move slow, 3 to 4 to 5 hours a week combined. This would be my schedule right here. So I have mobility every day. And you notice I have several lift heavies. So for me, CrossFit is such a great solution because it integrates a lot of these together. At every CrossFit workout, I get mobility work, I get heavy lifting, and I get fast moving. So I solve a lot of those just with my 3 CrossFit workouts per week. And then on the weekends, I might do some lifting on my own, and lots of move slow. So I have lots of extra time with the kids on the weekend, and that's when we're out, building stuff in the yard and just being active. That's my move slow stuff. So that schedule right there is my weekly activity. So screenshot that if you want, write it down, but that would be sort of a goal to work for. So here's some implementation tips I have for you. So pick 1 or 2 things that I suggested today, and I would suggest, of all the things the advice that I've given you today, the number one priority is the joint-to-joint mobility. So choose one action step. It could be the joint-to-joint mobility video, and incorporating that into your daytime routine. That is going to help you get the most out of your chiropractic care. That is going to allow you to progress in your neurostructural correction better than any of the other things that we've talked about today. So check out those resources. Focus on consistency. Try and do these things repeatedly. Try and build them into your day. Try and make habits out of them, and you'll get the most benefit out of them. Set goals. Do this with your spouse. Do it with a friend. Do it with family members. Having community and someone to be accountable for really increase your chances of success. So if you need me to be that accountability person, I'm so happy to do it. I love this stuff. I live for this. Organizing my physical activity this way has completely changed my body and how it feels and how it works, and my strength over the last several years. I love this stuff. I'd be happy to be your accountability partner. And lastly, schedule it. So I don't know about you, but my life is busy, and my life could be full of things that aren't necessarily all that important to me for my future. They could just be busy things that just come up. And if I don't schedule the critical things and paint double yellow lines around them, like my workouts, and I have an almost religious faithfulness to my workouts. 3 afternoons a week, I've got CrossFit workouts scheduled 12 to 1, and I let almost nothing invade that time. For me, those are scheduled priority appointments, and I book other things around them. So, and that's what's made it work for me. and maybe that'll help for you too. All right, and lastly, understand that no one's coming to save you, and there's no health professional, your medical doctor, me, nobody else is going to do this for you. You are the one who is solely responsible 100% for your health. And, you know, people like me and your GP and you may have a physiotherapist or a personal trainer. We are part of your team. We are experts who are guiding and directing you, giving you advice, showing you the best ways to accomplish your goals. But in the end, really, it's all on you. And, you know, I want to be one of your cheerleaders. I want to be your coach and help you along the way. And, but you really need to jump in and do this stuff. And if you do it and you do it consistently, your health will dramatically improve. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or text me. I think you have my cell phone number from my welcome letter, or you can ask me at your next checkup and correction. Dr. Craig Dingman, Elevate Chiropractic. Have a great day.